Can you guys hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. All right. A little bit of noise in the background. Just want to make sure.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ellen Munns, and I'm the Executive Director of Storytelling Arts of Indiana. We are pleased to be here with you tonight. We are producing the Indy Story Slam in collaboration with Freetown Village. Our sponsors tonight are Jim Obermaier and Sally Perkins, and the Nicholas Noyes Jr. Memorial Foundation. And our media sponsor is WFYI. I would like to introduce our judges. We have 3 judges tonight: Alice Mattingly, Becky Ritter, and Stephanie Boschai. Thank you for joining us. The theme tonight is Camp Tales. The first place winner will receive $50. Second place winner will receive $25. And the third place winner gets $10. Now, our first teller tonight is Tom Corbett. He is not part of the competition. He will give the judges a reference point so they can judge the next teller either above or below Tom based on his telling. So please welcome Tom Corbett.
Well, thanks, everybody. Hi. So several years ago, I think my son was about 10. We went camping at Turkey Run State Park. And Turkey Run's, if you've never been there, it's a good park. The campground isn't inside the park, it's next door. And I remember that particular day, it was a early fall day. We had a young deer come through the campground and basically visited every campsite. And I remember walking up to my son, and he actually reached out and petted it, and then it went on to the next person. That same day, we had a skunk in the campground walking through, which was odd and memorable because normally anytime I've ever camped at Spring Mill State Park, you get the skunks there. Almost every time you hear skunk, skunk, skunk as it's running through the campground and people are warning everybody. So we had that happen that day. But what was really memorable about that night, I remember we stayed up late, marshmallows around the campfire, finally went to bed, and there was a full moon. And it was very bright. We were in a tent then, so we had the tent. Of course, I put on the rain fly. And this particular tent has mesh all around the top of it, so that with the rain fly on, you still have airflow through there. And so full moon, and we'd probably been asleep a couple of hours, and then something woke me up. And so as I came out of my fog, I realized, oh, there's something going on in the tree above us. And as I listened more, I realized, oh, it's a couple of raccoons fighting in the tree above us. No problem. I figured, they'll settle down, they'll quiet down, we can go back to sleep. But like I said, full moon. So I'm looking up through the top of the tent, through the rain fly, toward the tree where the sound is coming from. And all of a sudden, this dot started falling and got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until it slid down the rain fly. And thinking it was the raccoon, but not sure, I popped up real quick and looked out that mesh right out toward the front of the tent. And I saw, yes, it was a raccoon, and he ran down beside my truck and hit my front right tire, bounced off that, rolled, and then kept running. And it was seconds later, here came the second raccoon off the back of the tent again, and it went running in the other direction. So after that, it did get quiet and we were able to finally sleep. But that's my camp tale. I'll never forget full moon, all that racket, and looking up and just seeing that dot falling, getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I didn't even have time to worry. And then it happened. So that's my camp tale. Thank you.
Now I would like to introduce our MC for the night, Celestine Bloomfield.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to tell you I was out there pitching a tent. That's what took me so long to get here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to know that tonight we're brought to you by Storytelling Arts as well as Freetown Village. And I'm so glad that you are here with your camp tales. And I really am so glad that we have that story to kick off our evening. Now, I want you to know that we have lots of tellers, that we have prizes. I don't know what you told them before I got here, but I hope you know that you are all competing. And our next teller is going to be Sandy Lomax. Sandy, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Kick it, girl.
Thank you. Well, this goes back to 1996 here in Indianapolis, Indiana, and we're all a musical community. It means that everybody's offspring that used to play on the avenue now have children, and that was us, the baby boomers of today. And there was a young man by the name of Chucky Bush. He was a great piano player and a singer. His whole family sung, and he was with Manchild. And they had a song called Especially for You. It hit the record charts and was very well known. So anywho, Chucky Bush wanted to do a tour with a brand new band called Charles Leonard and the Mix. So he planned a tour in Florida, and he asked me to be one of his backup singers, and I played the timbales. So we had a big yellow school bus is what we went down to Florida in. So I don't really remember the trip because it was long, but by the time we got to the Florida Keys, that I remember because it was so beautiful, you know, the ocean, the Gulf, you know, on both sides. So as we get to the club, we find out that the club had double booked. And there was another band that was already setting up. So we didn't know what we were going to do. So we went back on the big yellow school bus and sat and tried to figure out what we were going to do. We couldn't reach our booking agent back here in Indianapolis because he wasn't picking up. So as night fell, we were in the school bus. We had coats and clothes all around us. And all of a sudden, something started biting us. And it was so horrifying. It was biting us so hard that it was throwing sparks. And people was wrapping up, the musicians was wrapping up in our coats and blankets, and we would come out to get air because it was really warm down on the Florida Keys. And then we would wipe the sweat off our faces and go back under our blankets. And you could hear the screaming through the night. Oh, ouch, oh, ah. This went on all night and until the sun rose. And then by that time, we took the coats off of our faces and looked around at each other and asked, is everybody okay? Is everybody all right? It was a horrifying night. And these things are called no-see-ums. They're mosquitoes that you don't see, but they'll tear you up. So that was the time where the two horn players of Caucasian descent said, hey, we're out of here. So they called their parents and got flights home. So it just left us four to sit there. And I remember Chucky Bush saying, I got a tear in my eye and a lump in my throat, but I'm not calling home for help from our parents. And we understood that. So we did know that we weren't going to be on the Keys for another night. And that was our camping out on a yellow school bus story. And we did get out in time. We found a place in Homestead, Florida, that the band owner said, sure, come on in. I'll pay you guys this much. So we went in with a trio featuring myself. We did a show, got enough money to get enough gas for us to get back to Indianapolis, Indiana, and we didn't have to call our parents. and I call this my No Sam Camp Out horror show. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say one thing, better you than me, girl. Those are the things we learn in our youth. You cracked me up when you talked about that yellow school bus, though.
Oh, boy.
It was probably better made in those days than today. But I want you to know that in addition to Storytelling Arts in Freetown Village, our evening tonight is sponsored by Jim Obermaier and Sally Perkins and the Nicholas Noyes Memorial Foundation. And as usual, our media sponsor is WFYI. And I'd like for you to know that our judges tonight are Alice Mattingly, Becky Ryder, and Stephanie Chi. And our timekeeper is Ophelia Wellington. Hi there, Ophelia. Anyway, you know, Camp Tales, I don't have a one because my idea of camping out is from inside a glass enclosed, air-conditioned Holiday Inn. So I thank you for all these stories. The first place winner will win $50. The second place winner will receive $25. And the third place winner gets $10. So come on, let's keep up with those tales. How about listening to Carol Bussell next? Carol, are you there?
Celestine, you would like this camp. This was a church camp with late 19th century mansions on the lake. So you can sleep in luxury with balconies and beautiful, beautiful bathtubs. And then you go out and play. You can go to the chapel, do your crafts, but you don't have to sleep in a tent. This particular camp was given to the Methodist church by a lady whose husband had passed away. And when I was a kid, I thought, wouldn't it be great to sleep in the turret room? And so I did. And I slept in the master bedroom that went on and on and on and on. Like I said, it had its own private bathroom with tiled floors and beautiful bathtub, the whole thing. When I became a counselor, yes, I love camp. When I became a camp counselor, we had some free time and we went up to the attic, 3 floors up in this one mansion, found an atlas. And I thought, there's got to be more story to this story because we could find everything, but this atlas was really old. So for this particular presentation, I went to find out the rest of the story about this. The guy who owned this mansion was a 3rd generation millionaire. His family was in banking, railroads, and he was a Harvard and Yale educated kid who became a chemist. And he wanted to pursue science and was serious. This was that era where everybody was inventing. Ford was inventing, Kodak was inventing, and so was Theodore W. Case. What he invented was the talkies. Now, PBS didn't get it right. They skipped over him. Encyclopedia Britannica got it wrong and said he stole the idea from this guy named DeForest. And it was only Encyclopedia Americana. It was beginning to get the idea that maybe Mr. Case was the guy who started it all in his laboratories on the north end of that same lake, which was Auburn, New York. So he comes up with this idea and the competition begins when this DeForest fellow and he were sharing technology. Now, Mr. DeForest loved notoriety. Mr. Case was a free, happy millionaire with a boat that whisked up to the top of the lake to go to his lab, which was next to his house, which he stayed also in the winter. And then he would whisk down to the west side of the lake to his summer home, which was eventually Castle Wasco. In fact, I think he's the one who named it. Mr. DeForest bought technology from Mr. Case, not the other way around. He called Mr. Case a faithful imitator and said that Mr. Case came to his lab and hung around. Well, the problem was that DeForest was a loser, and he was the loser that was a sour loser in that he wanted the credit. And so when he thought he'd get somewhere, Mr. Case sold the whole 9 yards in 1929 to 20th Century Fox. And 20th Century Fox went on from there. So how did it happen that Mr. Case lost being part of history? And it was that DeForest had a great autobiography. He hung out with Hollywood for 25 years, and he had a girlfriend, and she wrote another book. Well, the son of Mr. Case says, now, if you went to the Cuba Museum, you would find out all the history, the letters showing that DeForest went to Mr. Case for whatever he needed to make his technology work. So I would like to say with this story that I am giving Mr. Case credit again, and may the ghost of Mr. Case be able to rest at least tonight, that he gets the credit for being the inventor of the talkie film.
That's right, girl. Give me a mansion. I need a mansion. If I'm going to stay or camp anywhere, I need a mansion.
Go to my.
Well, I would like to tell you that I have camped once in my life. It was a dangerous campsite down at Bedford Woods. And if any of you went to school in Indianapolis or Indiana, you might have gone to Bedford Woods down in Bloomington. It's a beautiful campsite. That's what they tell me. I was to give a lecture, a workshop to students who had come from all over the United States. Some had cut short their vacations in Puerto Rico and other glamorous places to come down to Indiana in August, when August was like the armpit of America. That's how humid it was. I had delivered 2 carloads full of video equipment. We were going to tell the tale. I was going to teach the kids some interviewing techniques. We were going to make movies, and it was going to be wonderful. And that first night, they showed me where I would be sleeping. It was a rustic cabin. Okay, I can do this, I said to myself. I can do this. I brought all my stuff in, set up the area for my workshop. Kids began, I'm talking about leadership kids from everywhere, but from rich backgrounds, mostly from all over the country. And everyone came in and they would look and see. Somebody had come in from Europe and they saw their accommodations and they started to cry. Some girl started screaming in the middle of the night because mice were crawling over her feet. I didn't want to give my bunk up to her, but I was thinking about it because I was thinking about going out and sleeping in my car. Well, I finally thought, let me talk to the workshop presenters, leaders tomorrow and see if I can commute. Sure, I can commute back and forth from Indianapolis down to the camp every day and teach this workshop. I don't care if I had to get up at the crack of dawn, but I cannot stay down here in these horrible conditions. The boys were even worse than the girls. The girls had cabins. The boys were on these platform tents out in the middle of the woods, and things were biting them and they were crawling over them. And I'm sure camping must have been in their blood somewhere, but not in mine. So I finally told the owner, the leader of the camp, and he said, well, now you've got to be all of it or not a part of it at all. And I said, all right, I'll take your challenge. And I packed my crap up and went home. I went home, my purse strap broke. I had loaded my car, 2 carloads squeezed into one. I drove home. I dragged, I remember the nurse had taken my blood pressure. It was sky high. She was thinking about having me hospitalized. I dragged my purse down the steps by one strap. I got down and I called my boss at home and I said, I don't care if you fire me. I am not going back down to Bradford Woods. And by the grace of God, I've not been back since. And that is a true story. Okay. Now, Noel, I know you got a true tale. I know you got one. I can see it brewing up and coming out the smoke at the top of your head. Come on, Noel, and honor us with a story.
It often comes out the top of my head. You have to look at it and see. Well, as a child, I loved Tippecanoe Camp, which was a Baptist camp in northern Indiana. And what wasn't to love? They had a basketball court that had chain nets that just made this chink sound when the ball went through it. They had a lake with a high dive that you could dive off of and go to the bottom of the lake and pull up weeds and stuff and prove that you had been to the bottom of the lake. It had everything you can imagine. And it was just so much fun. But there were two things, if you were honored to get to do these two things during this camp. First was being the bell ringer, because every section of camp, after breakfast, the bell rang. Before breakfast, the bell rang. At chapel, the bell rang. So you were in charge of starting everything. We had crafts, we just had all kinds of stuff, and canoeing and swimming, and it was just wonderful. And I had been there 3 years, and I met a girl there that I just thought was the best. Well, the second thing that was really an honor was to be a hopper. And that's kind of a combination waiter and busboy. But the thing was, you were in charge of coming early to the meals, setting everything up, getting seconds for everybody. So you were really, everybody wanted to be a hopper, at least I did. And you got to talk to the adults who were around acting crazy during those times where they weren't really with the rest of the kids. And I was just so happy on a Thursday that both Kathy and I became hoppers for our cabins. And breakfast was great. And we served those rubbery eggs and those rubbery pancakes with syrup all over the place, and gave seconds to anybody we wanted to. And then lunch was great. You know, boiled hot dogs. You can't beat boiled hot dogs with yesterday's sloppy Joe on them for chili dogs, and wobbly wheat French fries that you could just shake like a worm. But we just stuffed our mouths full of them. And so then every time we cleaned up, Kathy and I would walk her toward her cabin. And it was just, a perfect day. Well, it was free time before supper. So my cabin, Logansport, and the cabin, Fort Wayne, we were going to have a softball game. So you had to get to the softball field, you had to walk a nature trail. And you got back there, and we were playing a softball game, and of all things, the idiot bell ringer rang the bell for the hoppers. So I thought, no, it's my turn to bat. I'll stay here a little while. And so I took my turn to bat, and then I realized, you really are late getting back. So there was a direct route through the woods, weeds over your head, but I knew right where my cabin was. So I just ran shirtless, in shorts, through the weeds, down in a gully, back up to my cabin. And when I walked into my cabin, a guy in there looked at me and said, "What is wrong with your arms?" And just as they said that, I looked and I had welts all over my arms, all over my chest, all over my legs. And that instant they started itching. And I started scratching. And I had them go get my counselor and come back. And he said, "Put cold water on it. Just lay down, put rags on it." So I could not be the hopper for that day. I laid there and itched, and I was sure I was going to die from itching. And it lasted maybe half an hour. So I had a late dinner, but I didn't get to walk Kathy back. And however, I didn't die of itching. I learned later that I should have not touched it. I should have let it alone, let it dry, and washed it with soap and water. But I learned it 60 years later, just yesterday. So it was really no help at that time. Sadly, I would tell you, follow the trail. Running cross country through the woods is not worth it. So just don't. And that's my tale of camp.
That's hilarious. Don't worry, I will follow the trail. As long as it's concrete, I have no problems. Gravel, asphalt, I will follow the trail. Thank you, Noel. That was hilarious. Oh, now listen, our next teller comes to us from Chicago, Illinois, and her name is Beverly Williams, and I cannot wait to hear a camp story from Beverly Williams. Beverly, it's your floor.
Hello, everyone. And as you can see, I'm on TV. And this is a TV that actually we had at the campsite that I went to. I was called a advanced camper because I was older. My mom, she would send me somewhere every year because I talked too much. So she needed time alone. And so off to camp I went. I thought when we got to camp, it would be tents and everything. No, there was cabins. So we got there and we was like, this is not camping. And so in the main cabin was a TV like the one you see me on, and a stove and a refrigerator. We was like, this is not camping. I thought we was gonna rub sticks together and make a fire and then put the marshmallows on the sticks and things like that, which we did wind up doing. But our camp counselor was like, no, you're gonna stay in these cabins. So we were all assigned to these cabins. The cabins had bunk beds. They were old, and it started to rain one night. And so the camp counselors had to go around and pull down the shutters, which the shutters is outside, to make sure that the rain didn't come inside. So one day we took a hike down the trail. No, I did not cut through like Noel. We just stayed on the trail. We were on the trail and we were looking at different things. Of course, if you go camping, you will run into poison ivy. You'll run into kind of anything. And so the camp counselor kept asking us, what is this? What is this? And what is this? So us being advanced campers, we knew, but the junior campers, they didn't know, what was really going on. So we keep going down the trail. The trail is, not concrete, but it's I guess dusty or whatever you want to call it, muddy or whatever, woody, because we were in the woods per se. And so we're going down the trail, and all of a sudden, one of our young campers, she goes, snake, it's a snake, it's a snake. And so our camp counselor grabs a branch and takes the branch and sticks it right into the snake's head. Snake is dead. Well, the snake is hanging off of the stick. So the camp counselor, she goes, what kind of snake is this? So one of the little bitty campers say, it's a dead snake. Camp counselor goes, no, what kind of snake is this? The next camp young lady says, oh, it's a dead snake with a stick in his head. Camp counselor goes, no, I'm raising my hand. I'm all excited and everything. I want to tell what kind of snake this is. And the camp counselor kept saying, no, Beverly, you're advanced. We want the little kids. Say, what kind of snake is this? Everybody had the craziest answer. Oh, it's a snake that the eyes is bulging out. No. The camp counselor kept saying, why can't you guys tell me what kind of snake this is? And everybody's answer was, it's a dead snake. Well, finally, because of my big mouth, and that's the reason why I was there anyway, because my mother wanted some silence, she goes, okay, Bev, I'll let you have it. What kind of snake is it? I said, oh, okay, it's a dead snake. It's a snake with a stick in his head, and it's also a rattlesnake. It was a rattle at the end of the snake, and that's how I knew it was a rattlesnake. And so the dead snake with a stick in his head and had the rattle. My camp counselor held up and said, "That is the correct answer." So everybody was like, "Wow, it's a rattlesnake. It's a rattlesnake. What are we going to do with it?" And the camp counselor said, "We're not going to do anything with it. It's dead." And she threw it back into the woods. And that is my camping story.
You know, my mother hated snakes. I don't think she could even listen to this story. And I remember you told me your mother wasn't too kind about them either. I remember the story about the snake. That was good. Thank you, Beverly. Our next teller, I don't see Francis Whitner there, so we're gonna keep moving along. How about Portia Shola Jackson? It's your turn to tell us a camp story.
Well, I grew up going to camp with my family 2 weeks out of a year, every year, down in what is called Town, in Bloomington, right outside of Bloomington at Monroe Reservoir. Now, every year, my grandfather would pack up the station wagon, they pack up the truck, and my family had a camper, the kind of camper that you could stand on his legs and back the truck in and put it on top and then leave it and drive the truck away. Now, my mom is one of 6 girls, and all of her children, all of their children would come to camp with her parents. But the husbands could only come on the weekends. And so they had a way of packing everything we need. They would come down on Wednesday and then come back on Saturday or Friday night. Now, one of the things I realized about camping was that my grandfather and his friend who had retired, they never went to sleep, but they would stay up all night long and they keep the fire going. Now, we learned some very valuable lessons while we camped. And one of the things that we learned how to do was learn how to add what you call fertilizer to the earth. And I can remember when I was a little girl that I'm talking 6 or 7, I just thought this was crazy that we couldn't go in my camper all the time, but my grandmother was teaching us how to fertilize the earth. And so we had ways in which we would go, and they would teach us just the right way to squat. And even though we took a biodegradable paper with us, we had to leave a mess from our rear in the forest. And I was thinking, this is really nasty. So my grandfather kept trying to explain to us that the trees that grow, that we're fertilizing, that the ecosystem was going to love the fact that this is how we handle this. And then they tried to explain to me that this was a normal process. And would I rather go out in the open air or be confined in one of those things called an outhouse? And I declared one trip to those outhouses that I did not want to have anything to do with that because the aroma was not pleasant at all. So I learned. And what I realized is this: though my grandmother never would say it in a negative way, to this day, if we're camping or we're out and about and there's an emergency at hand, whether or not we call it a number 1 or a number 2, my camping experience taught me a very valuable trade. And that is, camping taught me to be the best papa squatter you ever want to see. I can pop a squat anywhere. I know how to do it so you don't see nothing. I know how to do it so you don't even realize what I'm doing. I know how to move, squat, and be done. I know how to do everything but one hand. I'm going to tell you, I loved camping with my grandparents. I loved going down to Paintown. I even loved the fact that I realized that the same body of water, Monroe Reservoir, I swam in, I was swimming with the fishes number twos. And that really rocked my world. But nevertheless, in my journeys in Europe and my journeys in Yosemite Park and any other state park I've ever been to, when people say, ooh, I gotta go, I'll look at them and say, you know, I'm a fine Papa Squatter. You better go on and go. And that, I tell you, is the end of my camp story, because I gotta go Papa Squatter.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. That's another one of my phobias. If I got to go to the bathroom, I got to go home. That was wonderful. Thank you, Portia. I'm looking to see if Julie's here with us yet. I don't see Julie. Leslie, are you telling a story tonight? You just listening? Leslie? I can see you, but I can't hear you. Now she left the room.
As far as I know, she's not telling a story.
Okay.
But I can tell a short one.
All right. Thank you, Ellen.
So it was the summer between 2nd and 3rd grade, and I was extremely excited because I got to go to camp for the first time. It's a 2-week Girl Scout camp. Now I was going alone because none of my friends wanted to leave their families for 2 weeks at such a young age. And my mom, being the good mother that she was, she took a pair of shorts and tucked in 2 shirts for my clothes for the 2 weeks. So I had 10 pairs of shorts and 20 pairs of shirts. And we stuffed it in a duffel bag along with my sleeping bag. And because I was so young, it was a camp that I was going to go to had cabins. So once I was assigned to my cabin, I unpacked my clothes and camp began. But for some reason, it was probably my age, I was worried about running out of clothes. So I wore the shorts and the shirt that I had worn to camp on the bus for an entire week. And then I decided I could change my shorts and my shirt. And when I did, one of my new friends said, I thought you came to camp with only the clothes you were wearing. I didn't think you had any other clothes. And so halfway through that week, I did change my shirt again. So I went home with 9 pairs of shorts, clean shorts, and 18 clean shirts. The next year when I went to camp, I did wear all my clothes. And it's probably the only time in my entire life where I didn't care what I was wearing, or probably didn't care that I would probably smelled. And that's my camp story.
That's hilarious. Thank you, Ellen. And I'm sure when your mother opened up your duffel bag and saw all those clean clothes, she wondered. I wondered what she said. Well, I don't see Julie, so I was trying to give her a chance to come and join us. I'm telling you, I'm not a camp girl. I once went out on my patio to drink some coffee, and a fly or a bug or something flew into my coffee. I promptly dumped it on the ground. I came inside, and I don't even go out in my backyard anymore unless I have a crowd, you know. And I'm sorry about that, but we're not all meant to camp out. If we were all meant to camp out, the good Lord wouldn't have invented air conditioning. You know what I'm saying? I would like to tell you that next month on July 21st, and I promise I will be here on time, we will meet again, and the theme is Welcome to America. So invite your friends to share a tale as well. But that is the topic for next week's Story Slam. I'd like to again thank Freetown Village and Storytelling Arts of Indiana, our co-producers, and our sponsors, Jim Obermaier and Sally Perkins, and the Nicholas Noyes Jr. Memorial Foundation, and of course, our media sponsor, WFYI. It's good to see some new faces. I enjoyed all of these stories. I'm glad I was not there, Noel. I'm glad I was not there, Portia. I'm glad I wasn't there, Sandra. Tom, no, couldn't do it. Carol, couldn't do it. I'm not that kind of girl. But at any rate, I'm trying to see where my messages are coming in. Are you going to text me or are you going to send me chat? Ellen, did you hear that? Okay. Well, let me tell you this. Our theme, Welcome to America, is just appropriate for the 4th of July. I want you to all wear red, white, and blue, okay? It'll be after the 4th, so your clothes ought to be ready. Don't bring any sparklers or anything, all right? As a matter of fact, they're running out of fireworks. So if you don't get them early, you won't have any. Now, I want you to know that our winners are, there's a tie for 3rd place. And the 3rd place tie is Noel Bewley and Sandra Lomax. Congratulations. Good job, good job. Our 2nd place winner is Beverly Williams. Congratulations, good job. And our 1st place winner is our Papa Squat Queen, Portia Jackson. I'm never gonna forget that, Portia. Congratulations again. I'm sorry I was late. I was pitching a tent in the backyard. Come on by and see it and make your judgments on it. But like I said, maybe an Airstream or an RV, I could go camping with you, but this other stuff, no. But I'm going to go find that mansion that Carol told me about. At any rate, good job. Thanks for coming. And we're going faster and faster with this story slam. So invite a friend or two for next month's session. Welcome to America. I know you got a lot of friends who can tell that tale. So thank you so much for coming, and we'll see you real soon, hopefully. Thank you to our judges and our timekeeper. Good to see you. Bye-bye.